What's going on, guys? Alex here, and today I have something kind of special. Since the GBA just started up, I figured I would bring back this type of video. I've done a couple of these before on my channel, and yeah, so I'm going to go over Draft League cores in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Um, I worked on this video a little bit, uh, so I hope you guys like it. So I'll just start it up. So before we start, everything you see here is my opinion. It's just what I think will work the best in most case scenarios. It's based on my experience playing. I've played 2 years of Draft League now and multiple leagues. Um, and just some like tips for drafting, not like specific stuff, but just tips. Um, Try to draft Pokemon that will make the best cohesive team. Try to draft to your strengths. I know a lot of people try to just draft what they think is the best thing that's left, best Pokemon on the board, which is not usually the best plan, because it creates a lot of like synergy problems and stuff like that. Also, I definitely recommend taking risks and being creative while you draft. Try to think of cores that maybe people have never done before. Um, Definitely something to try out. And you need to draft multiple cores for your team to really be successful. You can't just have like only a rain team or anything like that. You really have to try and draft a diverse team. So just get into the schedule for this video. It's just I'm gonna go over two typing cores, which is fire, water, grass, and the other one is fairy, dragon, steel. And then I will also go over some two Pokemon cores that you can add to like give like another core to your team. All right, so here we go. So first, I'm gonna go over the fire, water, grass core. That's like the classic competitive core, the starters and all that. Um, definitely a really strong core. You can very versatile and usually leads itself to being a balanced type of team. Um, so yeah, just the types that like what they usually have the role as. Fire generally has the role of offense. Water generally has a defensive role, and grass usually is support for the other two. Not always the case. Usually tier ones they can perform multiple roles, but as you get to the lower tiers, as you'll see later, the types will usually fall under these three categories. So start off with fire types. I would say fire types are probably the hardest of this core to really get. There's not as many really good fire types available. As for megas that are available, Charizard X and Charizard Y are probably the best. There are others like a Houndoom, but I would say if you really want a strong fire, water, grass core, you're going to want to draft Charizard X or Charizard Y as your mega, if you choose to use your fire type as your mega. As for like the tiers that I'm showing you, these are tiers that I've used in my leagues before. Could be different for your league. I know Volcanion is one of those Pokemon that's like a tier 1, tier 2 type, so that could definitely not be in tier 2, it could be tier 1 as well. But yeah, so Blacephalon, definitely a huge threat. Similar to Chandelure in tier 3, Ghost Fire, super powerful, very strong special attackers. Heatran, good support Pokemon, uses fire type more as a defensive. Infernape, good mixed attacker. Victini, very versatile. I would say out of the tier 1s, if you want to make a really strong core, I would choose Victini if you want an offensive fire type, and Heatran if you want a defensive one. As for tier 2, I would say Arcanine and Volcanion are your best bets. Arcanine is one of the best defensive fire types in the game. I think it is probably the best defensive one, with access to like reliable recovery, as well as Will-O-Wisp and Toxic. Good support Pokemon. And Volcanion is a fire and water type. I put it in the fire category because I think it performs more roles as a fire type than it does as a water type. Like generally, if you grab Volcanion, you're probably gonna want another water type. Also, Entei and Volcarona, very strong attackers, a little bit more one-dimensional than the other two. Tier 3, Chandelure, as I mentioned before, Darmanitan, Emboar, and Marowak. Now, Darmanitan and Emboar, and also Marowak, all huge physical attackers. Definitely big threats. Chandelure special attacker. A lot of these Pokemon like to run Choice Scarf. Marowak case, it likes to run Trick Room maybe, or Trick Room support, which you can grab with other Pokemon. And as for Tier 4, Torkoal and Moltres. Those are just, there's a couple more Tier 4 fire types, but those are the two that I think really are the best. I've actually really found Moltres to be really good. Its ability, Flame Body, is very good. Even though it's weak to rocks, I feel like if you draft good support, it's a pretty powerful Tier 4 pick. So next, I have water types. Now, again, I just picked what I think are the best from each tier, not necessarily what, like, these aren't the only options. So for Mega Pokemon, there's Blastoise, Gyarados, and Slowbro. I would say Mega Gyarados is my favorite out of the water types, but it doesn't perform the traditional water type role. It is much more offensive, while Blastoise and Slowbro are more support defensive Pokemon. Tier 1, we have Keldeo, Manaphy, Tapu Fini, and Toxapex. Out of Tier 1, I would say Manaphy is probably your best Tier 1 water type. Keldeo is also extremely good. Tapu Fini and Toxapex are great support Pokemon. Especially Toxapex, I think, is kind of underrated. Even though it doesn't have any offensive presence, it's very good at what it does. Regenerator, Toxic Spike, stuff like that. Now, Tier 2, we have Gyarados, Milotic, Suicune, and Starmie. As I mentioned Mega Gyarados before, but Tier 2 Gyarados, it's one of the few physical water types, and it's pretty good. It's a very good Dragon Dance sweeper. Z moves it's very powerful with. Milotic is probably, I would say it's probably the best defensive water type aside from like Toxapex, with Flame Orb, Marvel Scale I think it is. It gets the boosted defense. Suicune, very scary sweeper. Calm Mind Rest or Calm Mind Protect are both very strong sets. As well, Starmie, good rapid spinner, good coverage, good speed tier. Not super powerful, but it's very good for a tier 2 if you can get it there. So tier 3, I have Primarina, Swampert, Tentacruel, and Vaporeon. Now, Primarina is probably one of the better special attacking water types that you'll find, especially if you can get it tier 3. Even tier 2, it's still a pretty good pick. Swampert is a very good support water type, good electric immunity, can get up stealth rocks. Tentacruel is probably my favorite from tier 3 though. Rapid spin, toxic spikes, gets like a bunch of great support moves. It has a good speed tier, and actually is pretty viable running offensive sets as well. Its attack stat isn't super high, but with its coverage and stuff, I think it's pretty good. Now tier 4, it's Alomomola, Gastrodon, and Jellicent. Out of tier 4, there's some others. I think like Seismitoad is one, but I think Alomomola definitely is a pretty good pick. Regenerator. I like to use that thing with eject button. I think that it's pretty good paired with a strong fire type like Charizard Y. Eject button Alomomola could be a very good core with Charizard Y. Same for Toxapex. Gastrodon and Jellicent have some good water immunities. Jellicent is pretty good spin blocker, and it can get like Will-O-Wisp and stuff, so I would say that's another pretty good tier 4 water type. For water types though, you probably want to pick up this maybe second or third out of the core, just because there are a lot of really good water types compared to fire types, which are pretty hard to find a lot of like pretty hard to find like the really good ones. So I would probably go for water types last out of the three. Um, Now grass types. So Mega Pokemon, Venusaur and Sceptile are the two worthwhile Mega Grass types. Mega Venusaur I'm a huge fan of. I think that it's probably the best defensive grass in the game. Good reliable recovery, good typing, great ability. Sceptile is also pretty cool, very fast, can run mix sets. It's a pretty strong special attacker. I would say for Megas, if you want to grab a grass type, I would say Venusaur is the way to go. And for Tier 1, Kartana, Superior, and Tapu Bulu are all excellent. I think Kartana and Tapu Bulu, huge physical threats. They do have some glaring weaknesses, but I think they make up for it by being as big of threats as they are. Superior as well. It has just the pure grass typing. It's pretty good when fitting in fire, water, grass cores. It's fast, good special attacker, gets leaf seed, glare. Definitely a good Pokemon to grab out of Tier 1. Tier 2, Celebi and Ferrothorn are the two worthwhile in Tier 2 that I think. Celebi, good psychic type as well. It does have the bug weakness, but I think its move pool is pretty good. Ferrothorn as well, the grass steel type, very good, only weak to a couple types, fire and fighting. Good hazard setter, great support Pokemon. It also helps fill like a core with with the later core, the Fairy Dragon Steel, because it fits grass and steel. Previous Pokemon that I mentioned that also do that are Primarina with Fairy and Water, and Charizard X with Dragon and Fire. Tier 3 we have Amoonguss, Chestnut, Roserade, Shaman, and Tangrowth. Tier 3 I think is where you get the really good support grass types. Almost all of those have reliable recovery, have great move pools, good support sets. My favorite from there is Tangrowth. I draft it almost every time, like anytime I can. It's super bulky, gets great move pool, good assault vest, good physical defense. Shaman is more of the offensive that you can get there. Seed Flare is very good. Roserade and Chestnut, both good hazard setters, great in their respective defenses, physical and special defense. And Amoonguss is another regenerator Pokemon. Not my first pick. I'll probably even take Roserade before it, but it is pretty good on more bulky teams. And as for Tier 4, we got Sceptile, Virizion, and Whimsicott. I'm a big fan of Virizion. I think it got huge buffs. If you get a Tier 4 in draft this gen, I think that's a really good pick. If you get a Tier 3, I still think it's a good pick. Z moves made it very good. Z Close Combat, Z Stone Edge, definitely all viable. Whimsicott now gets Prankster Defog as well as Prankster Memento, stuff like that. Definitely could be useful. And Sceptile is just a fast special attacker that you can get in Tier 4. All in all, I think you can probably build a pretty good team out of picking out good cores throughout these three typings that I just went through. I tried to give you good options from each tier because I know that going through a draft you likely won't get everything you want and it's hard to build. I usually recommend Tier 1 for your Tier 1 for only one of the Pokemon from this core, and then go for the lower tiers for the next two, because usually Tier 1 is more offensive, and in the lower tiers you can find more support mons. So next we have the Fairy Dragon Steel core. Now this is more like a more recent core. It really popped up in Gen 6 when fairies became a type. They have some of the best type synergy in the game, as well as some of the best Pokemon available. Fairy generally is the support role, Dragon usually will be the offense role, and Steel will be the defensive role. But since the Pokemon are so good, they usually can perform many roles at once. So, Fairy types. The Mega Pokemon that are available that I think are good Mega Diancie and Mega Gardevoir. I would say Mega Diancie, if you want to go for an offensive team, is definitely the way to go. Gardevoir is more balanced, but it hits very hard. Um, Tier 1, Clefable, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Fini, and Tapu Koko. Um, all the Tapus are great. I didn't add Tapu Lele because I think most leagues ban it. I know mine doesn't, but I'm pretty sure that most leagues do. Clefable is very good. Can perform so many roles, and all the Tapus are excellent. I would say Tapu Koko is the best out of all of them, but it doesn't perform the roles of a fairy type as much as it does perform the roles of an electric type because it gets electric terrain. That's usually the moves that it will go for. Same for Tapu Bulu, but Tapu Bulu uses fairy as a defensive typing a lot more than Tapu Koko does. Next, we have Tier 2, Florges, Mimikyu, Sylveon, and Togekiss. Now, Mimikyu is very, very good from Tier 2, as is Sylveon. Both probably right on the edge of maybe being Tier 1s, depending on your league. Sylveon is great support, but also very strong special attacker and a good cleric. Mimikyu, great ability with disguise. It gets you can set up swords dances pretty freely, get free hits off. It's very good Pokemon. Florges and Togekiss are very good support. They have nice stats and pretty good move pools. Tier 3, Gardevoir, Primarina, and Slurpuff. As I mentioned before, Primarina fits both the Fire Water Grass and Fairy Dragon Steel core. Definitely a really solid pick from Tier 3. Gardevoir and Slurpuff. Slurpuff is cool because it gets Sticky Webs. Aside from that, it's not great, but Sticky Webs is really good in League format. Gardevoir is pretty good. I wouldn't recommend it, but like if you need a fairy type, I think that's a decent pick to go. From Tier 4, Aromatisse and Diancie. Diancie is very good from Tier 4. Probably one of the best picks that you can take from there. As for Aromatisse, it performs like the cleric role that Sylveon will, but without any offensive presence. It's alright. It'll fit your core, but I would recommend trying maybe going for a higher tier fairy type. Now for dragon types, there's a lot to choose from. I picked out the ones that I think are the best, but from Tier 1 alone, there are a lot more, like Latias, Salamence, and Dragonite. But the Mega Pokemon that I recommend, Altaria, which actually fits Fairy and Dragon. I put it in with the Dragons because it usually performs the role of a Dragon, but its typing does hit both for the core. Charizard X does hit that Fire and Dragon core, so it's very good. And Mega Sceptile also hits with Grass and Dragon. Excuse me. So Tier 1, you have Garchomp, Kyurem Black, Latios, and Zygarde. My favorites from there, Kyurem Black is super good, amazing stats, and really good move pool, great Z move user. Latios and Garchomp, very fast, really good stats, and pretty good typings. And Zygarde, which is my favorite from the tier, amazing move pool, 1000 Arrows, Dragon Dance, Coil, Toxic, Glare, everything. Amazing stats too. Not a super hard hitter, but with Dragon Dance and Z moves, it's probably one of the best sweepers in the game. Tier 2, we have Goodra, Haxorus, and Como. I would say Como is my favorite from Tier 2. Very good Z move user, gets pretty good coverage overall, current physical and special, pretty good speed tier, gets Dragon Dance. Haxorus also very good, great breaker with Z moves, pretty good sweeper, and Gootra's a pretty good support dragon type as well with the massive special defense. Now Tier 3, I put Dragalge, Flygon, and Tyrantrum. I know there are a couple more from Tier 3. Those are the ones that I like the most though. Flygon and Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum's a very good Dragon Dancer, hard hitter with Head Smash. Flygon is good support defog, as well as a Dragon Dancer, get pretty good Z move user. And Dragalge is actually one of the better defensive defensive dragon types, it can also take on like fairy types and stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool niche for dragon type. As for tier 4, I put Druddigon and Noivern. Druddigon, good stealth rocker, good glare as well. Noivern, very fast special attacker with pretty good coverage. Not super hard hitter, but pretty good coverage, which makes up for that. Definitely for tier 4, those would be the ones that I would recommend. Druddigon fills defensive dragon pretty well. So yeah, I would say for dragon types, if you're gonna grab like an early one, I would say the ones that I mentioned, the tier 1 ones, are pretty good options. All of them, they all fit multiple roles, and they all do their roles really well. So steel types. Steel types are the type of mons that I would probably recommend maybe grabbing early. There's a couple really good lower tier ones, but for the most part, you have a pretty good selection from tier 1. As well, Mega Pokemon, Scizor and Aggron are the ones that I would recommend. Mega Scizor, only weak to fire, very good stats. And Aggron is super bulky with filter and great stats. Definitely both perform more of a support role, but Scizor can be a good sweeper, as can Aggron with Curse. Tier 1, Celesteela, Heatran, Jirachi, Kartana, and Skarmory. Celesteela is probably one of the best picks that you can really get. Its typing and stats make it amazing. Its move pool is also extremely good. Heatran, I've mentioned before, actually does fit steel and fire for your cores, so definitely a pretty strong pick. Jirachi, Kartana, and Skarmory. Skarmory is one of the best support Pokemon. Kartana is one of the best offensive steel types for sure. Massive attack stat. Jirachi, one of the most versatile Pokemon that you can draft. Really, you can't go wrong with any of the tier 1 steel types for sure. Tier 2, Bisharp, Ferrothorn, Metagross, and Stakataka, I don't know. Bisharp is great but it's more of like a dark type than it is a steel type. It just uses the steel typing for defense because it will mostly be clicking knockoff or sucker punch. Ferrothorn, I've mentioned before, fits multiple cores as well. It is super bulky, gets great support. Metagross, very good typing, Psychic Steel, great stats, really pretty good move pool, and Stakataka is one of the biggest late game physical threats in my opinion. Tier 3, Cobalion, Doublade, and Empoleon are the ones that I mentioned. Empoleon does actually fit water and steel. I didn't mention it before because I think defensively it uses its steel type a little bit more than water. So Cobalion, very good Z-move user, very good hazard setter. Doublade, pretty good sweeper, great defensive typing as well. With the Violet, it's very bulky. Empoleon, as I mentioned, good stealth rocker, good defogger, uses his steel type to its advantage a lot. Now for tier 4, the two that I mentioned are Registeel and Bronzong. I think those are two excellent tier 4s. Registeel has amazing defensive typing and stats, great support move pool, doesn't hit very hard, but it can be used to check a lot of stuff. Bronzong as well, its typing is great, and it has another great move pool as well. So next, I'm just going to go through some 2 Pokemon draft cores. These are cores that you can probably pick up that can help solidify offensive or defensive roles. So first one I had was Excadrill and Sand. I usually recommend Hippowdon as your sand setter with reliable recovery, stealth rocks. I think it's the best setter because it can last for a late game. Tyranitar is also pretty good. It will run you a tier 1 pick as well as Excadrill, so it does cover it's a pretty expensive core to get. And I don't think Tyranitar is as good of a setter because it has poor defensive typing, and so it doesn't last as long. As well, Gigalith is an option for a lower tier sand setter. It's pretty good. It's a lot bulkier than Tyranitar, so it can last longer. So if you need like a budget sand setter, I think that's the one to get. As for Rain, Kingdra and Rain, so Pelipper um, or Politoed, that sets up like a mini core of a fast offensive sweeper that you can use. While I don't usually recommend going full Rain or full Sand, just because I think that makes your team very one-dimensional. So definitely these tiny cores are the way to go for that kind of strategy. So next I have Stakataka and Cresselia, two of the best Trick Room setters and abusers, um, and they support each other nearly perfectly with their crazy defensive stats as well as good typings. Cresselia definitely supports Stakataka really well, since the Trick Rooms gives it Lunar Dances, so Stakataka can sweep late game. Definitely a strong core to consider if you want to try out Trick Room. Skarmory and Blissey is a classic defensive core. Both together on a team really do they really do check like everything. So if you pick up that, then you don't have to worry about really like too many more defensive mons. You can just go for more offensive picks or more balanced picks, because these two really do cover almost everything. Hawlucha plus any of the Tapus with Unburden and the like Misty Seed, Electric Seed, stuff like that, Hawlucha becomes a pretty deadly sweeper. And Tapus usually can break the Pokemon that check Hawlucha, especially Tapu Koko. That's a very strong core. Next I have Bisharp plus Sticky Webs, or really any Defiant user plus Sticky Webs. Sticky Webs is very good this generation, and a lot of Pokemon learn Defog this generation, so Defiant users are very good to abuse Defog, especially Bisharp, which is the best Defiant user in my opinion. Next I have Zoroark plus any fighting type, but I picked Mega Lopunny in this case. Most fighting types, if you disguise Zoroark as a fighting type, people will like to go into their bulky Psychics or Ghosts, so you can use Zoroark to lure that, and then use Dark type moves to knock them out or deal massive damage. And last I have Jirachi and Togekiss. Jirachi and Togekiss is like that classic hacks core. I've used it before and it's good. I probably that would be like my least favorite to use out of the course that I recommend to you though. It's fun to use, I guess, if you like to just click buttons and get flinches and stuff. But yeah, they also have good type synergy as well, filling out the Fairy and Steel core. So I think that's about it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you recommend any cores that maybe I didn't mention, you can comment them in the comments. As well, if you think that I maybe got a core wrong, or maybe I missed an important Pokemon, definitely let me know. If you have anything you want me to cover, I will gladly do it. I think that the best way to get better at this game is to learn and experience a lot of like different things. So please be creative with your drafts. Try to maybe use something that I recommended. And yeah, hope you all have a good day.